believe that it's not. You are on the clock even when you're not on the clock, believe it or not. Now, I understand that labor law says otherwise, but if you're going to meet the performance demands without overworking yourself in a shorter period of time, you're probably going to take the work home with you, especially if you're doing the work on a computer and it's not exclusively confidential information that is restricted to the facility only. And even in those situations, people still bring their work home with them and they work overnight and on the weekend so that they can stay caught up. And that's also going to play to the tune of the salary that you have because your salary is going to be based off of your productivity, and your productivity is going to be more demanding with the higher salary level. So it makes more sense for you to take your work home with you, get it done so that you meet the deadline, and then you end up in a position where you just finished it right before you have to leave for work. You've already started emailing everybody so that when you get to work, it's in everybody's emails. The notifications, any type of updates, any performance reviews. You've got thumb drives in your suitcase, your luggage that shows that you're ready for the presentation. You're probably, if you have to fly over, if you don't work in the same place that you live and you're flying over, you're probably on the plane putting the stuff together and sending it out so that when you get off the plane, you're ready to go. And that way, when you walk in the office, your presence in the office is able to utilize the information that you did not that you put together that you don't have on your person, that you didn't have to do on the job. So growing up as an adult, you just have to realize that yes, it is not just corporate America. Most jobs are demanding to the magnitude where you start working before you clock in, you start working before your scheduled time, you continue working after you clock out, or you continue working after your scheduled time. And that's common work practices. That's how the Gen Xers were doing it. That's how the baby boomers were doing it. And that type of work culture has not really changed. Now, the Gen Zs who are on capped salaries, they have the experience to um, dictate terms because the boss is only paying them so much. And as a result, since you're not going to pay them more money to prioritize more of their time, the Gen Zs have more courage to put a stop block on expectations. If I'm only allowed to expect this much salary, you're only to demand this much work. And that and until you give me more salary, I'm going to give you limited work, even if I'm capable of providing you with more work. Now, that's one mentality to have, but that mentality will put you at a plateaued scenario because in order for you to get promoted to more demanding job titles that has more beneficial pay and extra benefits and stuff to that effect, you're honestly going to have to work in the position that you want to work in without the title and without the pay for a long enough period of time for your evaluations to qualify you to receive the job, because you do not get a promotion and then learn how to perform the job. You get a promotion because you're performing at the level of the promoted job title and salary. You've already been doing the work at that level, so they give you that title and they give you that pay. So yes, you will be in a situation where your job is more demanding. The better the pay, the excuse me, the more demanding the job is. It is what it is, and that's not something that you can really change. I mean, unless you want to be unemployed. Michael said, "We'll put you on the unemployment line." Yeah, not working. She ain't trying to work. She talking about, so I'm gonna get to it when I get to the job. Shit, everybody else is ready to present. She's trying to piece together her assignment. She's not gonna be ready. But it's a mandatory expectation that is a voluntary behavior. It is just like taking steroids and athleticism. Individuals who work after work off the clock, especially if you're on salary, you're on the clock 24 hours a day, 7 days a week anyway, because they're giving you a fixed amount of money for the next 12 months. And if you want to see a pay increase, perform better. So when you think about those times that you slack ass on a job, you were keying with somebody in the break room, you took too long to come back from lunch, you left early, you came in a little bit late, you got distracted, you had an extra long personal phone call, whatever the case may be, that slowed down your performance in that dynamic. you make up for it by working on your free time. So since you took company time to do personal stuff, you will now do company stuff on personal time to make up for it so that your performance doesn't slack. Otherwise, yeah, like Michael said, you'll be on the unemployment line.
So my friend from school asked me to be in her wedding over lunch today. I have known this girl about 2 years, and because we have the same major, we are school friends. We partner up in classes, do projects together, etc., but I don't really know or hang out with her outside this setting. Anyway, she asked me to be in her wedding. I assumed as a bridesmaid, but I was wrong. She said she had had a dream of her perfect wedding, and it was so beautiful she woke up crying, wrote it all down, and cried for hours because it was just so beautiful and perfect. She even made some sketches and said this was a vision from God of her wedding, and she couldn't even explain the warmth and ecstatic love to me because she didn't have the words, but that she would do anything to capture it perfectly. She then likened herself to an artist with divine inspiration and went on for about 20 minutes about the details of her inspiration and how beautiful and uniting this wedding would be, that it would change lives and be so much more than a ceremony, and that the execution was so perfect it would be more of a visual statement, an artistic dedication to love that everyone would be a living part of. In this beautiful, perfect wedding, I am to the front left on the aisle, playing violin as her guests arrive. In a long white gown, feathered and beaded and soft, very romantic. I'll know it when I see it. I laughed and told her I've never played the violin before, and as such may have a hard time performing for her guests. She told me that I had a year to learn and that this was extremely important to her. I looked at what I could of her beautiful wedding notes. They seem really insane. Lots of stuff feverishly circled or written over and over, like inspect what you expect over and over, and all in white literally scribbled over other words, all in the margins, copied into big paragraphs. The part she showed me of my role just said, my name, violin soft and complex, beautiful and intricate, concerto lots of detail. While the guests, I don't know how to play violin at all. I've literally never touched one. She sounded like she was on drugs talking about it. She was feverish and flitting from topic to topic and talking about how maybe I could compose something, but she wanted it to sound so intricate that no one would believe it was just one person playing it. It seems beyond normal bride stuff, and when I told her even if I did have a year to learn to play it would be basic at best, she slammed her hand on the table and said stop, then went right back to her cheery, excited talk about her divine wedding. I very gently tried to refuse and told her that this wedding sounded really important and that I would be happy to try to find a professional to play for her, and she just said, no, it has to be you. I'm sure of it," and went right back to talking as if I had suggested I wearing a hat to the beach. Just really casually dismissed. Then she dropped a bomb. "Besides, I already bought your violin, and it was almost $2,000. What? I don't know how to play." I told her she was being insane, but she just kept making no noises or putting up her hands or saying enough. Eventually, she just said the violin would be here in a few weeks, and that I needed to find someone that gives lessons and learn, and that she believed in me. She told me that worst case scenario, I get to learn a skill most people would love to learn, and that if I do well, I can have the violin as payment. I don't want a violin. I don't play. Then she left, and here I am dumbfounded. I can't exactly cut ties and run. It is summer now, but we have a class together currently and 3 classes together in the fall. I can only see her getting crazier about this. She is scaring me, and while she's always had a flair for the dramatics, she's never been this crazy before. I'm not really sure if this is just mega bridezilla and she'll get over it, or if I should just pretend I don't know her, or if I should call a loony bin to come pick her up, or just take up the violin and hope whatever god of weddings visited her grants me magical powers.
Okay, look what he said. Michael said, "I don't play the violin either, but I will play it." She's nuts. She's not necessarily nuts. The thing about it is that uh, if she's looking for it could depend if she's looking for a comedic wedding and she's not really getting her explanation across because you could be a horrible player at the wedding. But the fact is that if she wants you to be the one that's playing the musical instrument, you can fix that because they have lip syncers, so you don't have to be the one that's singing the song. You could just be lip syncing the song. And likewise, you could get like a Mozart symphony and have that playing from a speaker box right behind you, and you be pretending like you're playing the violin the same way we used to play air guitar when we were listening to rock and roll. It doesn't mean that we have to know how to play, but if it sounds like we do, that's really all that matters, because it's not like the original composer of the song is going to come and sue you for copyright infringement at a freaking wedding when you're doing this for your homie. Now, really, the main issue that I'm seeing is that the little girl that's being asked to do the uh uh the playing of the violin doesn't want to embarrass herself for her friend, which not really that close of a friend because they only hang out in school for the last 2 years, in college really. So they really just classmates. They're not really close enough to say that ride or die mentality, I'll fall on the sword for my homie kind of thing. They're not that close to one another. So asking a college buddy to embarrass themselves for your wedding is apparently asking for too much. But it's not crazy. It's just persistent. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with doing that, don't show up for the wedding. You already said no. You can show up for the wedding. You can hire the composer. You can have the composer standing somewhere. You could be holding the $2,000 violin that she bought you, and you can be pretending like you're playing, standing next to the composer, so that it still sounds good, but you're not the one making it sound good, and really work the wedding. And she's not going to really say much because you did what she wanted you to do. The music sounds good, and you're standing there with the violin pretending like it sounds good. It's the thought that counts. Bridezilla scenarios, we got a lot of unrealistic expectations from women, but bridezillas are women that have anger management problems when they lash out to the fact that the wedding isn't going the way they had envisioned it, where the very minute, intricate details that don't go the way they want it to go lead them to lash out at people with anger. And that is where the bridezilla term comes from. Just having a wild imagination about wanting a certain type of wedding and wanting certain people that mean the most to them to be in very meaningful positions in the wedding, where being a bridesmaid is not nearly as important as being the composer of the wedding, apparently. And to that magnitude, you are that important to the girl, and she wants you to stand in a certain position, being involved in a certain way. And my recommendation to you: do the best you can. The same way if you were in a performing arts class and you got section for the lead when you was expecting to be the janitor in the back of the room, and now you're the lead performer. Do the best you can. Don't dismiss what somebody asks you to do simply because you're not willing to do it. You think about it, because you might actually turn out to be good. Learning the violin in 12 months, it's not enough time to say that you're going to be like the best performer ever. But if you learn the violin, you might like it, and then you hire a professional for the wedding, stand there and pretend with the professional, and then you get to keep the $2,000 violin to continue playing the violin until the anniversary ceremony, where guess what? You can now legitimately play the exact same song that was played at the wedding, where she will be able to say you were there with that exact violin at her wedding, standing in front of the group, going through the motions. And that actually would be a wild and funny anniversary story that would be very meaningful for the couple, because you went above and beyond for the sake of their marriage. And that's really the part that makes it so important. You just got to think outside of the box a little bit. Because if they're going to be married for 2 or 3 years, and you're going to start learning the violin 1 year before the wedding, you should have learned enough about the violin if you're practicing just that one wedding song, that you should know how to play it by the time their anniversary comes. uh, he says, wild weddings are fun. Oh, of course they are. Raspberry wine, dancing in the barn, dogs and cats, donkeys. Enjoy life no matter what you do in life. I mean, I wouldn't bring a donkey to the wedding, but maybe the have the dogs and cats dressed up in brides and groom outfits, and flower pets, stuff like that. But not a donkey. I mean, we're not in Mexico. The- and if we were, we probably would have horses and donkeys in the wedding too. I don't know. It's just, but but dismissing something just because you're not comfortable with trying something new, I don't think that's a good idea. Now, dismissing something that makes you feel totally uncomfortable, dismissing something that might cause you harm, yeah, do that. But they're just asking you to learn a violin that they're paying for you to have, and if the wedding goes over well, you keep the violin. So it's a free $2,000 violin just so that you can stand in front of the group and play a special song for the wedding. I don't see what the problem is there. Let's go on to the next one.
I'm 20 and he is 24, and today me and my boyfriend had a fight in a flea market because I didn't wait for him while he was looking at something and kept walking even after he called my name. Also because I called him lame for not wanting to try coffee with orange juice. He was telling me off and then pushed me so that I lost equilibrium. Something instantly switched in me. He knows I hate arguing in public and prefer to calmly discuss things until we get home, but he keeps doing it for some reason. It just reminds me of children who throw fits in supermarkets. But the push definitively felt extra crazy. In his past, he chalked his ex. He was telling me how bad he felt about it and how he would definitely never do it again. I believed him because I also have history of immoral things that I promise myself to never do again and I actually don't. I understand I have acted disrespectfully and then laughed in his face about it because while I was walking away some grandma started swearing at him for taking a photo of something, so I just acted like I didn't know him to not be part of the drama. But is pushing ever justifiable? Doesn't feel like it. I definitively feel bad because I acted as an asshole, but the fact that he pushed me overweighed everything in my head, which feels unfair to him. What do you think?
Uh, immoral things, right? Okay, well, first of all, I think that you're being an extra special asshole right now because at this particular point, you're devaluing him in public. You're making sly comments about him in public. You're shaming him in all ways that you're not supposed to do to the person that you claim that you love. You're leaving him stuck out in a situation where a woman is accosting him in public, and instead of you defending your man or shielding your man from social attack, you're going to abandon him in a situation where he has to respond to this woman negatively. The purpose of fighting your man's battles is that a man is not supposed to take arm against a woman in society. So if his woman is there, she's supposed to buck the other women the same way a man is supposed to buck against the other men. So you failed to be a good woman to your man in more than one situation. Now, does that justify how he pushed you or what, like the strength or whatever, whether it was just a little or if he kind of just full on like and shoved you off the, he could have knocked you off of a tape. I don't know. The fact is, two wrongs don't make a right, but you're gonna say that, well, because he pushed you, that the physical contact is far above uh all of the things that you did to this guy in this one scenario. Not to mention, you walked off from him, you ignored him. Like, you're doing the most right now, and you're saying that him pushing you should outweigh and overshadow all of the bad things that you're doing to him. I don't think so. I don't think that his pushing you is appropriate, but I don't think that any of your behavior is appropriate. And you more often than not need to apologize to him for every single thing that you have done to him in detail, that led to him pushing you, which would then deserve an apologetic response for him pushing you. But condemning him for knocking you down if he would have knocked you down because of the way you treating him in public, where you're arguing and fussing and yelling with him in public, you're deliberately mistreating him so that he can get mad, which would might cause him to lash out inappropriately in public so that you can say, see, he's a bad guy. Sweetheart, if you don't want your man, just leave him. Don't dog him out and treat him bad and make him regret the fact that he know you so that you can force him to leave you. Most men don't leave their woman. Most men try their best to tolerate their women. But a lot of the times there are men who don't know how to deal with the extremely negative behavior of their women, and then they behave irresponsibly towards that negative behavior, which then puts the guy in a bad position. Now, clearly, you remind him of his ex because his ex drove him to behave in ways that he wished that he would not behave in again. And you here recognizing the things that he's went through and the stuff that he's done, you're like Michael said, you're pulling his triggers deliberately, triggering this guy to see if he's going to be a different person. And there are a lot of women that do this in relationships where I want to see what you do when you're mad, or I want to see what you do when you're upset. And, I'm going to do things just to see how you respond to them. Sweetheart, do not ever, ever compromise the happiness in your relationship just to see what the misery would look like. It's going to come eventually. So do not compromise some of the best parts of your relationship just by testing your man's anger management skills, testing your man's patience, testing your man's loyalty or dedication, testing your man's responses to your disloyalty, your negative behavior, your defiant behavior. Don't do that. If you got it good right now, y'all enjoying one another's company, y'all are just to get a response, right, Michael? Just to get a response. If you're enjoying each other's company, enjoy it. Live your best life. Get through that honeymoon phase with no chaos. Try to aim for 6 months to 9 months worth of honeymoon phase when most people only have three. Try to avoid conflict as much as possible while negotiating through and not just dismissing that conflict so that you guys can live a peaceful life for as long as possible. And when the anger comes up, deal with it. But triggering a guy to get pissed off, ladies, that is the wrong thing to do. If you got a guy that has never gotten mad in front of you, that's probably because he's got that incredible Hulk rage and he don't want you to see that. And for you to push his buttons so that he can Hulk smash on you, that is your asking for it. And you're gonna say, well, he shouldn't do it anyway. No, no. There are some situations where you ask for it and you should get what you ask for, even though it is not socially accepted for you to be smacked around. The fact of the matter is that if you're gonna sit there and put yourself in a position to get beat up, think about it like this. If you talking back to the police officer and hit him with that mace, 5 cops are gonna come up there and beat the crap out of you. Now, does that mean that what they're doing is right? No. But if you put yourself in a position to get handcuffed and pepper sprayed and curb stomped on the side of the road, you kind of asked for that. That don't mean that they should. I'm just saying that the outcome that you ended up with was the outcome that you was begging for, even though the person that served you that outcome should not have served you that outcome. That's what I'm saying. So this isn't me saying, oh, you should get Chris Brown whenever you talk back. This is me saying, don't put yourself in a scenario that has an outcome of you being accosted in some way, shape, or form, and then you feel bad when it actually does happen. Don't put yourself in a situation for getting arrested for stealing by stealing, and then you feel bad because they arrested you. You know what I'm saying? Don't put yourself in a position where you going to jail for associating with minors when you shouldn't have been over there associating with minors. Just don't R. Kelly style if you don't want to catch that case. Take responsibility, first person accountability, and you want to take responsibility for the actions that you are about to perform before you perform those actions. So if you know what the consequences are, if you know that he is working on his anger management situations, Like he said, playing I'm a girl card. No one's watching her kick him again. But see, they got those. Okay, here's the thing. First of all, y'all gotta take responsibility for y'all actions to the fact that you know what the consequences are before you perform. If you know that the dude is going through anger management because he acted irrationally with his last relationship, Chris Brown, his last girlfriend, and he left her before she left him, and he don't want to be like that no more. And now you're sitting over here triggering a guy repetitively in this flea market to the magnitude that he want to slam your head up against the table. You are really escalating the situation where he has not fully mastered anger management yet, and you are trying your best to see exactly how much you can piss him off without him retaliating to you. And that's not appropriate to do. That's the same as a person that's recovering from alcohol and they go into AA meetings, and you're gonna see how strong his sobriety is by giving him shot after shot after shot to see how many times he's gonna say no before he cave and start drinking with you. That's not appropriate. That's not being supportive. If he's trying to improve and not behave a certain way, you're not supposed to encourage the negative behavior out of him. And then we got this other situation because females think it's okay to smack guys and hit them in the arm and hit them in the back of the head and nudge them and push them and shoo them and kick them and trip them and all these other things because I'm a girl, you can't do anything about that. Then when these guys haul off and knock you down or bust you in the mouth or whatever the case may be, you're like, oh, he's a bad dude because he shouldn't hit me, blah 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 blah. He shouldn't have been with you because you're toxic. But the fact that he with you, he should have made better choices. But you got what you was asking for. So even though he was wrong for doing it to you, you deserve to get what you got. So when you ask me, should you have been pushed? You should have been put upside down into a trash can. It just shouldn't have been him doing it. It should have been the old woman in the wheelchair that was cussing him out that should have did it to you. The same way strange men will come up and save a damsel in distress when she's being beat up by her boyfriend. Strange women need to come up and knock these women down and toss them upside down into a trash can something like that and protect these good men who don't deserve to be getting mistreated in public. That's what I feel like. And call me wrong if you want to, but I'm just saying like there are good guys in this world that can be corrupted by a toxic woman. There are good women in this world that can be corrupted by a toxic man. And the downside about that is that society will end up with the product of toxicity, where the next generation of relationships is going to be full of toxic people because this one person on both sides of the fence did somebody wrong. It's almost like spreading STD. Spreading toxic and traumatized behavior is just like spreading an STD. If you don't never get cured of it and you keep passing it to everybody else, eventually everybody's going to have it because they're going to get it. They're going to pass it on to somebody else. It's not going to go away unless you get treated and put a stop to it. Everybody's going to have it. So you got to stop mistreating good men the same way bad men's got to stop mistreating good women. Otherwise, we're not going to have good folks in the dating pool. Like I said, I'm just letting them know I don't appreciate it and don't piss in my Cheerios. But I'm on that though. I'm on that though. There should not be a situation where you are arguing with your partner in public. If y'all don't disagree, agree to disagree. We'll talk about it later. If we're not on the same page about something, understand that we're not on the same page about something and flip a coin, paper, rock, and scissors, whatever the case may be, but accept the fact that this is how we're going to do what we're going to do, and then we discuss it later. Sometimes you might have to just fold on a discussion in public and say, okay, we're not going to even talk about this. I'm just going to let you do your thing. I'm going to follow along with disappointment, but I'm going to let you do your thing. And then after this situation is over, when it's just the two of us somewhere, whether it's in the car, at the house, whatever, I'm going to have a discussion with you about what just happened today. Even if you're going to sit there with a pen and pad and write down all of the things that went wrong today that you wish didn't happen. And then when y'all have that moment, because I told y'all, State of the Union moments where once a week where y'all talk about the things that y'all wish had improved, financial discussions every 2 weeks, so that y'all can make sure that the money is right. If this situation at the flea market was a bad day, Y'all both should have been able to document stuff without fussing and cussing and yelling at one another. And before we move on to the next one, ladies, don't walk away from your man. Don't get pissy and walk off, and because that's another form of a temper tantrum. It really is. Walking away from him and ignoring him is a temper tantrum. If you walk away from him, ignoring him, and then he walk away going in the opposite direction, you could get snatched up and end up in the van with no windows or hit by a car or whatever the case may be. And because you're ignoring him, he don't know what's going on. You stay with him. You can pout and cross your arms and drag your feet and scoff. It's not appropriate behavior, but don't walk away from your partner. Y'all came together, y'all leave together. That should be y'all mentality. Don't matter how y'all treat one another during the scenario. If y'all came together, y'all leave together. So don't leave his line of sight and don't turn your back on him because that's gonna be the one that's supposed to be there for you when things start getting out of control for you. So whatever you got to do to fix that behavior, she talking about some. There were things that she did in the past that immoral things that she trying to work on. You need to work on your positive behavior skills. Like I said, better to write down what was great today. Well, truth be told, you need to have two different journals. You need to have a journal of all the best things that's happened in a relationship so that y'all can revisit those every month or every year so that y'all can remind yourselves how great this relationship can be. But when you're talking about conflict resolution, instead of fussing and cussing and yelling at one another in public, it is more appropriate for you to document your discontent so that you can then talk about that later, even if you're going to get you a composition notebook and write down the negative things. And then y'all can go out in the backyard or y'all can go out into the woods or something like that, dig y'all a really deep hole, fill it with some cobblestone so that you don't set the neighborhood on fire, start you a little bit of a fire, talk to your partner about the stuff that's concerning you, and then burn that paper. That way, there's no evidence of the negativity that you have resolved, and then you only have the book of positivity. Y'all can do that. Don't throw your partner on the fire. This is supposed to be a transparency discussion where there's no judgment, no resentment, and no retaliation. So if y'all can work out y'all's issues in an appropriate fashion, then y'all can work out y'all issues. If y'all are in the kind of relationship where y'all aren't mature enough to communicate without fussing and yelling at one another, if y'all got a problem, only talk to each other about the problem via email. That way you got time to write it out, read it, think about it, edit it, and then send it. And then your partner's gonna read everything that you gotta say. So your whole position has been received before they respond. And then they're gonna be able to write a response to everything that you've got to say, read it, edit it, and then send it back. After that first response, the only thing y'all should be discussing is a resolution to the concern. Michael said, the world is full of negativity. It is. And because we're so used to negativity, we typically accept negative attention before we accept positive attention. And we typically lean towards negative behavior before we lean towards positive behavior. But if you learn how to navigate past that, you might find yourself in a different situation. Like I said, it feels better when I think on the positive things in life. Yeah, but in order for you to navigate past the, remember what we said before? Hope for the best, expect the worst, and take whatever happens in between. In order for you to have that mentality, you always have to think about the negative to prepare for the negative, and then look forward to all of the positive things in life. He said, "What? I can't throw her under the bus." Well, no, you're not supposed to throw her under the bus, but that don't mean that you can't drop a banana peel in front of her, let her fall in front of the bus, and have a final destination moment. It just means that you can't you can't grab her and Mike Tyson chuck her into that bus. You can't street fighter and flip her into that bus. This can't be a rock bottom moment with a people's elbow and then a bus. This has to be a situation where you just appropriately not yell at her. Because imagine this: imagine you and your partner are standing on the sidewalk and y'all are having a yelling contest with one another for no reason. And then you step forward shouting at her, and she steps back shouting at you. And when she steps back, she gets hit by a vehicle coming by. Now she's dead. You are going to be guilty about the fact that your argument with her led to her death. You're going to blame yourself for that. Y'all need to behave in public. Y'all need to take y'all asses home and have that conversation in the safety of your own home. He said, better yet, do you like negative people around you or positive people? Truth be told, if you're not dating a positive person, you're already off to the wrong foot. But you're supposed to you're supposed to try to keep things positive. But not too many people really realize that they have this thing where they want to be accepted by others. So instead of only navigating their life to people that are going to be positively involved in their lives, they proactively put on a performance so that they can be accepted by people who don't really want them in their life. So now you are the extra in somebody else's main story instead of you trying to find extras for your main story. And now you have to put on a performance so that you can meet their expectations, which allows you to be devalued by the other person, which is a negative scenario. If you are the main character in your story, all of the extras are auditioning to be in your story, which means that they have to mesh with you. That's the way it should be. If they're not meshing well with you, then you need to dismiss them. Now, granted, you're going to be in a spinoff, the secondary character in their story, but you already meshed in your story, which means you're going to be meshing in theirs. He said, first one yells loses. That's a good train of thought. Don't raise your voice. You know the swear jar? You can have a yell jar. First one yells, puts $100 in the jar. Some bitches be broke. Writing IOUs for them. Like I said, I'm a positive person. I'm a logical person. And logically, I try to be positive, but if the situation is negative, I'm gonna respond to it accordingly. He said, you should always be the main character in your story. That's what I would hope, but that's not what some people do. So this little girl was asking, should she, was the situation wrong? Yeah, it was all the way wrong, all the way around. But she was the main problem in the scenario because she didn't like what he was doing and she was devaluing him because of it. And then when he lashed out on her, she got pushed. She mad. Now, some people gonna say, "Oh yeah, when he pushed you, he'll punch you in the face, and if he punch you in the face, he'll break your jaw." And da 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 da. You should leave him. You should leave him. Okay, I'm not gonna say that's not true, but I'm also gonna say that if you're willing to trigger a man into punching you in the face, you need to really think about your decision making skills because why are you going to antagonize a person to the magnitude that would convince them to believe that knocking you out is the only course of action that they have? And then here's another question. What is going on with your train of thought? Because this ain't the first person that's been trying to knock you out. You have a part to play in getting knocked out. I don't condone domestic violence, but you have to understand that negativity, it takes two people to come together, it takes two people to cause an argument, and it takes two people to mess it up, at least two people to mess it up. So that means that in a situation where you are taking a person that is otherwise peaceful and ending up in a physically conflictual scenario, you have to ask what type of antagonistic behavior that you performed that led to this going from just talking to physically fighting each other. Because you should never be in a situation where that happens. It will take two people to resolve it if they both want to resolve it. But if they are looking for chaos and toxicity and conflict, they're not going to try to resolve it. They're going to nitpick. They're going to play catch back. But you see, they both being petty because he fussing, yelling, cussing at her in public, and she's shaming him, devaluing him, and walking off from him in public. I would have let her go. See when she walked off, I would have went to the car. I would have went to the car. She would have been still at the flea market. That old woman would not have been able to fuss and cuss at me because I would have been in the car backing out of the thing and I would have left. And that would have been the end of the relationship. It would have been no, oh, we're gonna talk about this later kind of thing. Nah, fuck that shit. Because if you're not in my car, but I put it in gear, you're getting left. And everybody that is in my squad, everybody in my family, everybody I'm in a relationship with is in my car when I go somewhere. If we're going in separate directions, Like Pirates of the Caribbean, that's a wrap, bro. That's a wrap. There is no captain without a ship, boyfriend without the girlfriend. I'm the husband without the wife. That's not happening. She ain't here. She ain't here. She need to be replaced with somebody who's determined to be here. Like I said, absolutely, absolutely, you are right. Some people love living in a toxic relationship. That's all they know. I don't agree with that type of scenario, but that's all they know. And the funny part about it is that those people who get a kick out of getting into that toxic relationship, especially for the thrill. They get out of the toxic relationship with extra trauma, extra baggage, wondering why they can't find happiness, wondering why they can't find love, always wishing that they could be happy in a peaceful, chaos free relationship. And then they go and find a yet another toxic person. Some people are attracted to toxic people. So, what you come to ask yourself is toxicity your type? And if it is, go find somebody that is not your type. Go find somebody that doesn't get your heart fluttered in knots and stuff, right? And see if you can have you a vanilla toxic free relationship, because that might be exactly what you need, is a boring ass vanilla ass toxic predictable or non-toxic very predictable relationship. Like, you know exactly what your partner's going to do, say, how they're going to react, and you know exactly what to do, what to say, and how to react to keep this relationship going in a non-conflictual fashion. Sometimes trying new things, meaning trying something different in your dating skills and your dating activities, so that you don't get the same negativity from past relationships. Let's see what the next one's got going for us.
What makes a man feel closer to a woman? I've been told I feel closer to you a few times. Usually after a decent date. What usually makes a man say feel that? Is it quality time?
No, a man actually feels closer to a woman when she listens. And one of the things that, and not just listening, just like letting him talk, but actually hearing what he has to say and appropriately responding to that, or recognizing like his effort, the acknowledgement means a lot to them. And these are things that men don't get in their relationships from their girlfriends and their wives. And it'll lead to them cheating on their girlfriends and their wives with a woman that they're not dating that actually does recognize them. So he said, "What makes it man feel closer to?" No, that's what happens after y'all get close. We're talking about she's talking about like how he said timeout. He gonna put himself in a timeout. All right. Yes, these are the things that would make a woman make a man feel closer to a woman is having a conversation where she's listening to what he has to say, she's meshing with him, she's resonating. If you're in a relationship, she knows like his pains, she can understand his discomfort, she can see when his facial expressions change, and she knows that there's something wrong, and she's able to get in there and proactively work with him to make things a little bit better. She's willing to cooperate and compromise. She's willing to negotiate. She's not nagging him. She's not putting him down. She's not shunning him or shaming him. These are going to be the things that's going to make a man feel important. And since most women, whether they're in his relationship, in his workplace, or in his family, most women don't treat any man that way. And because of that, when a man finds that man gravitates closer to that woman, because it is a rare breed, like finding a unicorn. It is a rare breed. Finding a woman that values and respects a man is almost like trying to find a virgin. It is hard to find. They're out there, but usually they're married. Oh, that's not love, bro. That's not love. That's respect, admiration, and appreciation. That's what that is. They'll call it love, but no, love is a choice where you're dedicated and devoted to somebody else for whatever reason. But the admiration and validation and confirmation, that's not love at all. That's just mutual respect that just doesn't happen in society, and we'll fall on that because since it doesn't happen that much, like, you could give a guy roses And he might look at that and be like, oh, okay, and not know what to do with that because a man never gets flowers. But you bring a man a freaking Xbox with that new GTA 6 on it. Oh yeah, he know you love him for sure. You get a man an upgrade to his car. Oh yeah, you know he love him for sure. You know, if you find what is missing in a man's life and you bring him that, that guy will melt and then dedicate himself to you for the rest of his life because at the end of the day, don't nobody give a shit what men need. Men don't care what other men need, and women don't care what men need. Nobody give a shit what men need. So you got to think about the fact that if you made it your priority to value him enough to deliberately fill in his blanks, oh, bro, feeding a man is the easiest thing a woman can do, and they feel oppressed by it. Old school women will tell you the quickest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. That's because a man will starve himself to death, working himself to the bone to make sure that a woman gets what she needs, has extra spending money, get what she wants. On top of that, he will forget to eat. He will forget to sleep. He will forget to shower. He will wear torn up clothes so that he don't have to buy nothing for himself to make sure that he gets for her what she needs. Now, will she make sure that he don't starve to death? Make sure that his clothes is nice. Make sure that his hair is taken care of. Make sure that his he gets rest. Women say, "Oh, that's misogynistic to have those expectations." But if you look at the sacrifices that men make so that the women have what they need, what the man is missing is for a woman to tell him, "Go to sleep. You're tired." For a woman to say, "Here's your uniform. It's ironed." For a woman to say, "Here's your lunch. Eat." You know what I'm saying? It makes a lot of sense, but women ain't thinking about that. They're not thinking about that. So those are the things that bring a man closer to you. Because, for example, if I ran out of drinks here at the podcast and my girl seen that I ain't had nothing else to drink, that I keep looking over here for something to drink, but I'm not going to get up because I'm in the middle of my podcast, and she starts bringing me drinks, and you start seeing cups being handed to me on the podcast, and you be like, "Who is that?" Did she knew I was thirsty? That's what's up. I'm gonna appreciate that as soon as I get off the podcast. If I'm sitting over here all day long, back to back videos, and then all of a sudden I'm over here, rubbing my stomach, and I got to get back on this conversation, and she's seen that, and she come over and bring me a plate. You start seeing food being handed to me. Who is that? Oh, I'm eating now. I'm greatly appreciative about that. If you're not noticing like things are wrong, like for example, when a man walks with a woman in the rain, it's raining. It's his job to put an umbrella on her to keep her dry, right? Now, when you get back to the house, it's her job to get him out of them damn wet clothes so that he don't get sick. Again, women are gonna say that's misogynistic, but he kept you dry when y'all was in the street. You keep him from getting sick now at y'all home. That's how you take care of your partner. That's how men feel valued. You understand? Another thing that it makes a man feel important. Women don't understand how important this is. If he's gonna Captain Save a hole, he gonna come and fix your car on the side of the road, change your flat tire, come and get you when your car break down, all this other stuff. For you to call him and tell him where you're at and what you're doing without him having to ask, so that he know where you at, so that when you do call and say, "Honey, come get me," he can jump in the car like Batman and swing around there. He feels important because you tell him where you are just so that he knows. It's not controlling. It's voluntary information. But now he knows where you are and he can come and protect you when you need that. Because men do it for their women on a regular basis until they're in a situation where she start cussing and fussing and yelling at him about where he at and what he doing. That's when they stop telling their woman stuff. Oh, I'm about to go by my friend's house. I got to go to work. I'm going to leave for my job. I'm going to go by my mama house. I might have to go by my auntie house, blah, 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 blah. I got to go pick up my drunk friend from a hotel. All of these other things, they will tell their woman what's going on. And um, then if she, oh, but I wanted you to do X, Y, and Z, and if that leads to an argument, he ain't gonna tell her as much stuff. He said if she stays at home, help each other out, building bonds, yeah, and trust. That's true. That's true. But that's what men are looking for, and that's what the majority of men are looking for. Now, whether or not women reciprocate with that, that's a really different question. But that's what men are really looking for. Next one.
To everyone in long-term relationships/marriages. When did you first become intimate? I'm curious how it was for you when you first met your partner. People often say the timing of intimacy can influence how the relationship develops. When was the first physical contact, like leaning on each other, holding hands, etc.? When was the first kiss? And when did you first sleep together? Just wondering how it played out for others.
Um, he said 10 minutes. P.S. Life is hard, and marriage is even harder. Facts point that out. Yeah, yeah. Forming a commitment is incredibly difficult. Well, you is not out there meeting no girl and then jumping in no sheets in 10 minutes. It take more than 10 minutes to get to the sheets. Unless y'all in the bathroom at a McDonald's drive-in, y'all, it is not gonna be no 10 minutes. Then lost your train of thought. Look, uh, first contact in relationships typically happen with if it's a fling kind of situation, it might happen same day. If it's a coworker, it might happen. Well, it's not gonna happen same day. It's gonna happen after y'all spend enough time on the job together. So that might be a few weeks to a few months. If y'all working long shifts together, it might be a real long time. You know. But when we start thinking about outside of the job, typically the more often you see each other, the more frequent the encounters will lead to the more frequent physical contact. So you might lean on each other on the first date. You might bump each other's shoulders or lay your head on the shoulder, especially if y'all watching a movie together or something like that. Y'all might give each other deep hugs on the first date instead of giving a romantic kiss. So it really depends on a person, but the quicker you bring your relationship to physical contact, the quicker you have to juggle the emotional stability of the relationship and the physical intimacy. Because once physical intimacy starts, the expectation that the physical intimacy will continue frequently is going to be the thing. And the problem is that the same way that a man wonders if she just wants me for my money, a woman wonders, does he still just want me for my body? So the quicker that you guys get into physical contact, the more subconscious that the woman might feel that he's just using her for her body. The quicker that you guys go into the man's wallet and have the man buying stuff, the quicker the guy's going to think, oh, she's just using me for my money. And the quicker that the both of you have that mentality and impose that on each other, the quicker it becomes a transactional relationship. So the longer it takes for you guys to do that first kiss, the longer it takes for you guys to do that first night of intimacy, the more successful your relationship might be because you can build a emotional attachment with one another that will be a lot stronger, and that emotional attachment can have a little bit of hand holding and laying heads on shoulders and deep hugs without having the tongue down each other's mouths and knocking the sheets off the bed and stuff like that. He said in the hospital, y'all are not supposed to be, this is not how to be a player over here trying to smash in the hospital in the ICU when you're supposed to be in there by yourself. Either come over for a study session. Oh, Netflix and chill. Nah, that's not what it's about, bro. That's not what it's about. It's supposed to be about getting to know each other. Now, if the passion runs high and y'all decide that y'all are gonna go ahead and do the intimacy thing, you know, ladies, don't make that a one and done, like it's never gonna happen again kind of situation, because you're gonna make him feel like he did something wrong. If you're not ready to make that a regular occurrence, then prolong it. Don't do it. If it, and a regular occurrence is like at least once a week, few times a month, something like that. Like it's gonna happen again. It on your next day off kind of situation. But if it's like a, oh, this is only gonna happen once and we're never gonna do it again kind of thing, don't ever do it to begin with. Because every time he thinks the moment occurs for him to try again, you're gonna continue to reject him, and rejecting physical contact with him is going to build resentment in a relationship. So if you're not comfortable with making that a regular occurrence, don't start. Don't start. Just keep it platonic until you both are good. Where when y'all turn it into something physical, that y'all don't have a problem with keeping it there. Now let's see what the next one is.
I miss my old life. I'm 36 years old, married, with a toddler, a stable job, a house in the suburbs of a mid-sized city. Living the American dream. I am American, by the way, LOL. But I am bored. There was a time just 8 years ago when I lived in NYC. I was 60 pounds lighter. I was single and engaged in personal development. I read, I painted, and most of all, I fucked around. I was alone and a little depressed, but I was hot and I was having fun. I had a tiny apartment, but it was all mine, filled with art and knickknacks and clutter and moments of beauty. The world was at my fingertips. I had a killer playlist on my own personal Spotify account. My husband convinced me to delete it so we could have a joint account, and now it's all gone. I miss being able to be a little irresponsible. I miss flirting. I miss staying up all night painting. I miss public transportation. I'm trying to remind myself that I wasn't 100% happy then. But the desire I feel when I think about this time in my life is so strong and painful. I am so lame now. How do I solve this?
So what you're saying is that because you're a responsible adult now, that you don't feel happy. When as soon as she said that she was out there just sleeping around, I was like, okay, so your problem is that you don't got enough partners. That's what your problem is. You like to flirt, you like to tease, you like to be acknowledged by a bunch of different people. You want to know that you still got it. You were 60 pounds lighter before the child, which means you was a lot slimmer before the child. You used to get whatever you wanted without having any responsibility back in them days, and now you got a bunch of responsibility and you don't always get what you want because you got to sacrifice what you want for what your baby needs, and now you're disappointed by that. Part of growing up, man. That's it. Yeah, what you mean get a dog? She already got a baby. If she depressed about having to change diapers with the baby, how depressed is she gonna be about taking a dog out for the walk after she done changed the diapers on the baby? It's harder. It sound to me like she pissed off that she got to put the child in the stroller and walk her down the street. Talking about something she missed public transportation. Who the fuck missed public transportation? Let me get nah. She says she's 36 right now. She's usually 36. So at 36, because she just had a baby, she can't be 43 and she just had a baby. She got a toddler. Toddlers are like 1 to 3 years old. She ain't having no baby at 40. She had that baby at 33. And she was throwing it against the wall. She was dropping it like it's hot. And like her killer playlist probably was a bunch of songs that devalued women. And her husband did not want her to listen to that type of music because subconscious messaging in that type of music would cause you to behave inappropriately listening to certain types of stuff. And it would be true if that's the case. So even though that's a bomb track, you shouldn't be listening to that. For example, in my current age range, yeah, I like some of the gangster rap that used to come out in the early 90s. But I am not supposed to behave in that fashion. Therefore, I'm not supposed to be sitting over here bobbing my head, swearing up and down that I'm gonna shoot the club up. That's not the mentality that I'm supposed to keep in my head. So when I go to a location, if it does end up being a club, it is not my mentality. Oh, I don't like what's going on. I'm gonna tear the club up. No, no, no. Because a lot of times people emulate what they absorb in their mentality. And that's one of the reasons why back in the day when parental controls and restricted content started happening, certain things that you get too exposed to negatively impacts your behavior pattern. Porn negatively impacts your behavior pattern. Too much violence negatively impacts your behavior pattern, which is why violent video games restricted to certain age ranges. Too much violence in movies restricted to certain age ranges. Too much sex in certain movies restricted to certain age ranges. Now they're starting to restrict certain bad habits like smoking and drinking and doing drugs, restricted to certain age ranges because too much of a negative thing influencing you at a young age will compromise your normal development. So if your man is like, don't listen to that, that's not you shouldn't be identifying yourself as a bad bitch. You're not a bitch. You should be identifying yourself as that. Then, she can't get salty about the fact that he wants better for her. Because that's what she chose. She chose him. She chose him to make decisions that benefit her existence. And if that means changing some of the things that she do, then she should be able to make them changes. Because if you respected his decision making process, you shouldn't challenge his decisions. You negotiate some stuff, but you don't challenge him like, oh, you're wrong. What you got me here in the first place for? Why would you hire a lawyer and then don't let them represent you? Why would you elect a doctor for a surgery and don't let them operate on you? If you select that person, you trust that person to do their part in your life. Michael says, she's going into midlife crisis. Nah, she's having post-thought depression. That's what she's having. That ain't midlife crisis. That ain't midlife crisis. She used to be in. Do you know where your kids are? Shoot. You need to be asking her husband, does he know where his wife is? Because if Usher's in the neighborhood, might be in trouble. Let's see what the next one's doing.
My wife got off hormonal birth control a year ago, and her personality underwent significant changes. At first it was awesome, and our relationship was better than ever. Then things got complicated. She said that she was unsure of our relationship, that she found herself attracted to other men and found herself annoyed with me. This included believing she was receiving and sending romantic messages via social media posts to someone, and later believing she was being monitored 24/7 and gang stalked. She has been seeing a psych for several months now, is on medication, and is recovering very well. During the time all this was happening, I had noticed my wife being on her phone nearly constantly, like 10 plus hours a day. I know this is normally a red flag for cheating, but she had had a low level of phone addiction our entire relationship, so it wasn't anything new per se, just a new level. I could almost always see what she was doing, and 90% of the time, it was watching Instagram reels. She had started neglecting basically everything. Her hobbies, her job, cleaning up after herself, etc. Given that it was winter and she has a history of mild seasonal depression, I thought it was just depression kicked up a notch. She started taking Lexapro, which helped for a bit, but quickly stopped. Eventually, she called me and said that she thought her Google account was hacked and asked me to come home from work and help her change all her account passwords. When I came home, she asked me to not talk in case they had access to her microphone and asked that we read out all communication until we got the passwords changed. I thought this was weird, but I'm a bit paranoid about digital security, so I went along with it, though I did text her sister to let her know what was happening and that it might be a red flag. She believed a guy she knew had been sending her subliminal messages via various social media sources for months. As an example, she believed certain Instagram reels that came on her feed were messages from him. When I asked how she thought he was influencing her feed, she said that if he liked something, it would be more likely to show up on her feed. There are many other examples like this, some more absurd. Eventually, she started to believe that more people were involved, including big meme Instagram accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers. She eventually believed that her phone had been hacked and they were monitoring everything she was doing. Things came to a head when she believed she was being actively threatened and hallucinated a threatening message in her Notes app. When that happened, she came to me and told me everything that she thought was going on. When my wife came to me with what she thought was happening, it was pretty obvious to me that something was off. I called a psychiatrist who confirmed what was happening was pretty textbook psychosis. Fortunately, my wife had kept an extremely detailed journal of all of the events that happened, real or imagined, and asked me to read through the entire thing. The journal made very little sense, with almost dreamlike logic, in many places. For example, page 32 might end saying, "I wonder if Bob is involved." Then on page 33 it continues as if it's proven that Bob is involved, as if things came true as soon as she thought them. Going through the journal together page by page and untwisting the logic, I was able to get her to see that she was at least in part experiencing psychosis, but she still believed some of the monitoring and gangs talking was real. Just a note, we found out later that this is not a good idea. While it worked in our case, apparently it is just as likely for the person in psychosis to experience more delusions that just accommodate the inconsistencies you point out. We were able to get a psych appointment almost the next day with a friend's help. It took about a month to rule out any physical/medical causes of psychosis, get diagnosed with delusional disorder, and start antipsychotic medication. The psych slowly worked her up to a therapeutic dose, and my wife has not experienced any delusional flare-ups for several months now. Our relationship has and continues to recover. She is once again excited to be with me, and all of the new annoyances she felt are gone. She still has struggles with her mental health, but obviously that is to be expected as she recovers. She mainly seems to be shaken by the fact that all of that stuff that seemed so real was fake, and that she lost so much time to it. She also struggles with feeling isolated due to people not understanding what it was like to go through psychosis and recovery. In terms of one of the main problems of the original post, where she said she didn't think she wants kids anymore, after a few months she came to me and said that she does want to try for kids again.
Okay. I want to say congratulations to this group, to this couple, because he showed full transparency, understanding, open communication. Um, he did not let, but again, this is a man doing it. He did not let the situation destroy the marriage. He did not retaliate, and she continued to turn to him for guidance and assistance, even though she was feeling indifferent about him. They stuck together through the situation and then realized that there was a true problem because he could have gotten upset at the very beginning and gotten bitter about the accusations of the lack of desire towards him and the interest in other people on social media, and he could have assumed the 10 hours a day was her cheating on him with somebody else, and he could have just dropped her, and she probably would have never gotten the help that she needed. But by ignoring her behavior patterns as it is not him that she is doing this towards. This is something going on with her, and then focus on how can he help her through the weird things she's doing. He was able to get her the help that she needs and save his marriage and save her mental state at the same time, because untreated psychosis can get so bad that it could lead to mandatory institutionalization. So uh, that was actually a good thing. Now, there are some things that you can get prescribed that can actually cause psychosis and delusions. And that's something that you have to pay attention to when you're looking at some of the side effects of some of the medications that you're being prescribed. Because while a medication can be prescribed for one thing, the actions and behaviors of uh, you, while taking that medication, could lead to adverse effects that you don't really want to have happen, which causes you to immediately stop taking that medication. But when he says she was high as a kite, no, she wasn't high as a kite. She was losing her ability to maintain the understandings of reality versus non-reality, and that can happen. That can happen, and it happens to people at different ages. It could be hereditary. She could have psychosis in her family tree. She could have dementia. She could have um, not autism. What's the other one? That's not amnesia, but it starts with an A. I can't think about it right now. But it's one of the ones that it leads to memory loss and the lack of focus in reality. Now, these things can start off early onset. It means that it happens at a younger age. These things can start off sooner rather than later. But once it does start happening, you have to be able to navigate through that. And that's some of the reasons why the marriage vows is for better or for worse, is because that is typically a one of those for worse parts. That your partner literally goes crazy or literally experiences psychosis, and you have to navigate through that. But they navigated through it very positively, and I commend them for that. I appreciate that. That was a good one to hear. Let's see what the next one's got going on.
I am 27 and I confessed my feelings to my 26-year-old girlfriend. Need advice on what to do next. Going to try and keep this simple. We've been together for 4 years now. We moved in together at the start of this year. 2-year lease. We barely talk outside of the usual work talk or family drama. We haven't been intimate since we moved in and a good bit before we moved. I thought moving would help this, but no. Feel unwanted and alone. I truly don't even know if she is attracted to me or not. When I broke down, I specifically asked her if she was or not. Didn't get an answer, she just didn't acknowledge the question. I'm not even the most horny guy in the world, but it's been a year and a half since anything, and it's making feel like I'm disgusting or something is wrong with me. I recently got into the gym because of this. Down 18 pounds, so yay for that, I guess. She gave me reasons on the no intimacy, and I understand where she is coming from. She doesn't like the way she looks, I get it, but I really do think she is beautiful. I've tried getting her in the gym with me, she's tried twice, both times giving up a week in. Doesn't respond to motivation. She said she needs to go to OBGYN, totally understandable. But she still hasn't made an appointment to go. She first brought up going months ago. Her dog, I absolutely despise this dog, and I used to be a dog person. We cannot physically touch without her dog jumping on us or nipping at me. I tried getting her to take it to a trainer. Trainer refused after seeing just how bad the nerves are. She also doesn't discipline the dog after doing something bad. She said her drive is lower, I get it, but it's been like a year and a half since anything. I don't know what to do about this reason. Not sure if I even could do anything. This was all said a couple weeks ago. She maybe has started kissing me an extra 3 or 4 times a week. Has come up from the once before bed, but it's just not enough. Is this bad of me to think? It's as if the conversation never even happened. Plus she still keeps talking about buying a house as if everything is fine, not doing until things change, if they ever do. It's as if she doesn't even see me anymore. I talked to my mom about all of this, and she mentioned her probably being depressed, which I can understand. I already feel like such a fucking douchebag asking for intimacy. I don't want her to start doing stuff like that just because I want her to.
But that's exactly what you want her to. Apparently, Michael, he might think that she's uh reasonably hot, but she might think that she's FAT, not PHAT. Uh, if she is going through levels of depression, it's the her drive and intimacy is going to be down. She recognizes that you don't feel valued, so she's giving you more kisses throughout the day, but she's not willing to get down and dirty with you. You haven't gotten a therapist, a family therapist, to work through the issues. So If there is something going wrong that's negatively impacting her drive, like depression or something to that effect, or you might not be aware of the fact that she might be a survivor of an assault that happened back in the day that she just hasn't talked to you about yet, and she's not comfortable with talking about it, and she's not capable of performing because she's continuously having flashbacks of it. That could be a thing too, uh, because women that have been assaulted in their past look normal, but subconsciously they have not recovered from past traumas. So if she is a victim of past traumas, you're pressuring her to get involved with what would exacerbate her traumas is not good. So you need to look into getting a therapist, getting a family therapist, try to see what you got. Probably get a one-on-one therapist and see like what can be done about the lack of physical connection, what's driving the lack of physical connection, and the excuses like delaying a doctor's appointment when y'all probably got health insurance. If y'all can afford a house, y'all can afford health insurance. She could have went to the doctor last week. So the fact that she's not going, she's just making excuses to not be intimate with you, but it might not be because of you. It could be because of her. And if it's because of her, you just got to hang in there, bro. Become a monk, self gratification, get you a triple diamond platinum package on Pornhub, something. But pressuring her. But the problem is that women can survive off of emotional connection. Men will end up cheating. Women can go years, decades without sexual connection. Men can't do that. Men don't feel comfortable with going a week without it. So going a year and 7 months without it, that's a long time. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, buddy, if you're not going to, Michael said, underlining issues is normal. Yeah, well, buy some movies, but get the magazine, get the comic book. But if the underlining issue is that you're not getting the physical connection that you need, and you're not gonna cheat on her with somebody else, or a bottle of lotion to accompany that movie. That's bad when you got when you've got a bottle of lotion and some napkins while watching Netflix, because the stuff that comes on Netflix should not trigger that type of behavior. But if you're dealing with that much frustration, you got to release the frustration some kind of way. But if she's willing to allow you to get your physical intimacy, you can't feel bad that she's willing to cooperate with you even though she's not in the mood. But if you want her to be in the mood, then you need to figure out why she's not in the mood. It doesn't necessarily have to be you. It could be her. And if something's killing her drive and whatever's killing her drive is not you, the only thing that y'all can do is work through that. Because what if the roles were reversed and fella was dealing with erectile dysfunction, he couldn't get it up, he's not willing to talk about it because it's an embarrassing thing for men, and he's not trying to allow the intimacy to occur, making excuses, dodging the conversation, the other person is going to feel the same way once he breaks down, because you do realize that erectile dysfunction in men, it's a human body response. It happens differently in women than it does in men, but erectile dysfunction is going to be the lack of sexual drive, and that does happen in women as well. It just manifests in a different way. So while she might really care about you and she's talking about building a future with you, she does not have a physical attraction. Or if she does have a physical attraction, she doesn't have the capabilities of expressing that. That could be a simple chemical imbalance. Now, does that mean that she's got to take some ecstasy or something? Does that mean she got to pop some mollies or get her some Viagra or something like that? You got to take her to a doctor and figure that part out. But if you go through this relationship and find out that there's more to it than meets the eye, then you're going to be regretting the fact that you felt bad this whole time because she was suffering in silence about something that she wasn't comfortable talking to you about, and you were taking it far too far. But you're telling me you're not going to buy a house with her, you're not going to build a future with her, you're not going to uh progress what is otherwise a decent relationship because you're not getting laid. I think that's unrealistic, my guy, because for better or for worse, from the perspective of men, not getting laid by your wife, that is part of the for worse part. That it is what it is. But when you dedicate yourself to that person, when you first met the person and you decided to dedicate yourself to that person, once you dedicate yourself to that person, if they change out on you where sex was there, y'all was married for 4 years, sex was there probably the first 2 years, and the last year and 7 months, sex stopped. What happened? What changed? And that's the one thing you're not paying attention to. All you're caring about right now is that you're not getting any now. Y'all moved in together and that didn't solve the problem. So y'all moved in together so that you could potentially close the gap on the absence of available time so that you could get laid. Once that didn't work, you're like, fuck, I failed. I still can't get laid. You don't want to buy a house with her because you're thinking that you're going to break up with her and go date a girl that will sleep with you. But what if it is you? What if it is you? What if it's your behavior patterns? What if it's your uh, little habits that gross her out? What if that's the case? Then what? You're going to be mad at her. You're going to leave her, go date another girl, and 2.5 years into the relationship, the new girl's going to do the same thing. What if it is you? So y'all really need to get down to the bottom of it. Get down to the bottom of it. But don't make like sex the defining factor in your relationship. If that was going to be a defining factor in your relationship, you should have made it clear at the beginning of your relationship that the expectation of 3 times a week is like the go to. And whenever she decides that 3 times a week is not plausible, and it's not because the doctor recommended against that after giving birth, y'all need to start renegotiating your relationship. But if y'all been together 4 years and ain't nothing going wrong, bro, fix that shit. Ladies, this is the advice that men give men all the time. Don't just give up on it. Fix it. Navigate through it because these things happen. Women's sex drives go up as men's sex drives go down. So while you're in the first 4 years of your relationship and she's not quite in the mood, 20 years from now, you're going to be in the same position. You're not quite in the mood. These things happen. So figure it out. Now, we apparently crossed through all of the comments that we have for today's show. I appreciate you guys for coming. We're going to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. He said, just pay her $100. This is his girlfriend. Giving her $100 is not going to do anything. He could ask her for some fellatio or something like that. He could ask her to allow him to perform the acts of intimacy, which puts more effort on him. And if they're not focusing on her finishing, if it's just about him finishing, then he could go there and get the intimacy that allows him to express himself with his girlfriend without having to cheat on her outside of a relationship. And that might be the best that he can get for right now. And if that's all he's got, he's got to deal with that until he can get a professional to help them navigate what else is next. In addition to that, I'm going to say, fellas, 65% male driven podcast from the male's perspective. I give you guys this advice to help you guys become higher value men. Uh, but this isn't exclusive to the men because ladies, y'all can take this information and put it to use to make yourselves higher value ladies. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be talking about the way that geopolitical changes have impacted our investment opportunities. And then Tuesday, we're going to be talking about how the entire uh, economy just shifted. Stocks changed, everything to that effect that just changed out. We're going to be talking about that on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we have a different country that we're going to be going to invest and live. So stay tuned for that information as well. I'm going to say special shout out to Michael for being a good proactive participant in the comments today. Remember, you guys, when y'all come to the show, that y'all can engage from Twitter and Twitch. You guys can get engaged in the comment section if you like. I just ask that you keep your comments appropriate. One more thing I want to say is special shout out to Steven from Twitch as well as Danny Steffen from Twitch. Well, Danny Steffens from Twitch and Stevens from Twitter. I want to say thank you guys, and Mr. Pips, I want to thank you guys for coming to the show and showing us a lot of support. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.